Dillon, coming into the game, this offense had the worst on-base percentage in the month of June. Batting average, not great either. Just why do you think they've been struggling so much?
I mean, I think that obviously batting average speaks for itself. We're not getting enough hits. And then the on-base percentage, we're not getting enough walks. We get ourselves into some good counts. You saw here today we got into some 3-ball counts and then maybe expand the zone when we've got that advantage instead of using that count to our advantage and looking for a mistake or being disciplined enough to take that walk.
How do you go about correcting that and trying to have plate discipline?
You know, I think a lot of it comes with discussion and then trusting teammates. You know, you've got to be able to lean on one another when everything isn't going right for yourself, knowing that the next guy, even if you can't drive the run in, but you take your walk and maybe the next guy is able to get the job done.
Do you think that's a product of Judge not being in the lineup? Guys are maybe trying to do too much, maybe not trusting in each other?
I wouldn't say that they're not trusting in each other. So, you know, but I think that usually these types of things do stem from trying to do a little bit extra when a guy like Judge is out. And so making sure, you know, we've had this situation before. We were able to rebound, especially in the month of May when, you know, even before Judge got back. So we anticipate to be able to rebound again, just making sure that, you know, we take what the game gives us instead of trying to force things, you know, when it's just really not necessary.
What are you seeing from DJ right now?
You know, DJ started off the year extremely well. His load has changed a little bit. It's caused him to come off the ball a little bit earlier, his first moves off the ball. And, you know, I would say that today in the cage, it was especially good. So I'm hoping that we're taking steps forward and getting him, you know, back on the ball, staying on the ball, being able to drive back through the middle the way he's always done.
When you say his load has changed, what causes that? Is that just a bad habit you pick up during the season, or is something else the culprit there?
I think he would have to address that, but it can be any number of reasons of why those types of things happen. It's just like Volpe talked about it as you know, it was a bad habit that he got into about like coming off the ball so quickly. These are things that, you know, even before, with DJ specifically, you know, he has said before when we first started, you know, when Casey and I first got here last year, hey, when I'm going good, my load looks like this. When I'm going bad, my load looks like this. And so there's a different reason for it all the time. But we recognized it, and we're working on it, and we've been working on it. But sometimes these things, you know, they do take time to, even if it's something that he's always done, it takes a little bit more, you know, it takes a little bit of time to get back to what it is that he's always done.
I thought Stanley and Rizzo, two veterans, are really scuffling. I know Stan's only played 11 games, but both of them are struggling pretty bad.
Yeah, I think, you know, we saw last year, you know, when Stan got back, it was a matter of like getting his timing back. And so I would say a lot of that is still the same case for Rizzo. I would say mid-May started with a swing decision issue where he was expanding the zone a lot, and then that turned into maybe a timing issue maybe by late May to try and, you know, your effort in trying to make better swing decisions a lot of times is to see the ball more, like let it travel, those types of things, so you can then make better decisions. One thing that we talk about here is like, instead of like seeing the ball longer, try to see it earlier, so that way we can make decisions earlier. And, you know, especially for our lineup, that's key for us being able to use our power. So by the end of May, it probably turned into a timing issue, catching the ball, maybe just, I mean, literally just, you're talking about one baseball, a half a baseball deeper. So that turns into these really well-driven balls into maybe a fly ball that you guys have seen. We've adjusted the cage routines. This is someone who's been very successful on, you know, very similar routines over his 12 plus years of baseball. But today, yesterday specifically, making some adjustments so that way it's not so much the pitcher dictating timing. It's he's in control of it with his load and being able to kind of attack as opposed to being the person that's always reacting.
How are these guys dealing with all this collective struggle?
Professionally. I mean, very professionally. It's if there's one thing we've got experience. You know, we've got a ton of guys who have played in the big leagues for 10 or more years. So while this may be the biggest slump of Rizzo's career, you know, it is something that he's experienced before and knows how to get out of. And, you know, I would say that their attitudes, they're very focused, but it's more about, you know, in these times, like when we are struggling, it's important for us to focus on one pitch at a time. So it's instead of like one whole game or this one pitcher who's going to throw for the next 6 or 7 innings, it's this one pitch. You know, I step out of the box, I have a plan for the next pitch, I'm fully committed to that and doing things, you know, in a much smaller window because we feel, you know, we can control that a little bit better than, you know, 7 innings or 2 weeks of time. So taking things one at a time, one pitch at a time, and then moving forward from there.
When you talk about these bad habits with DJ, do you feel like he might be doing that to compensate for something? Like, could this be a carryover from last year?
He doesn't say so, no. So, you know, I trust DJ. And like I said, you know, I've got video on my phone from being in the cage in spring training in 2021, him showing, hey, this is what my load looks like when it's good. This is what it looks like when it's bad. And, you know, whatever, you know, 3 weeks ago, however long ago it was, a lot of the days run together right now. But it's, you know, you see it a little bit, right? And then that turns into like, you see it more and more and more. With the way that like his load is a little bit shorter, and then that causes him to be off the ball a little bit sooner. And for someone that goes through the middle into the right center gap so well, being off the ball, that's not something that he does, right? So starts out as like a little suggestion, hey, you know, let's watch that front hip or let's keep that shoulder in. And then now it's like, okay, there's a large focus. There's a large focus in the cage. Not that we're changing anything dramatically, but it's like, you know, there's just been added concentration.
Dillon, it's a long season. Easy to hit the panic button when you're going through a stretch like this. But what, if anything, changes about the way you go about things, what you do to try to get them out of it on a daily basis?
You know, I'm not in the box with them physically, but like mentally, emotionally. Myself, Casey, Brad, we're all in there. You know, these types of stretches, they'll beat you up, but you got to have confidence, right? You've got to have trust, and I think you've got to believe in the things that you do well. You've got to lean into your strengths. You've got to. You're not running away from anything, right? So it's, but we're really focused on what it is that we can do about things right now, and you know, that could be as simple as the one pitch here, taking that pitch, drawing that walk, creating a little bit of momentum that way. You know, from day to day, we're flipping over all the rocks, looking for any little advantage that we can. And you know, that type of stuff is really paid off when you're looking at a pretty good road trip out of Seattle and then LA, beating a really good pitcher in Max Scherzer. You know, we've got to just keep pushing forward.